Stewardship Network, CEO and founder Lisa Brush, and the community coordinator Bob Lazinski. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you for having us.
Yeah, nice to have you here. So we got to know a little bit about you earlier in the year, when I think maybe last fall when we were talking about the Grand Raisin
Conservation Community.
Conservation,
Yeah.
So they're a part of you.
Yes, they are.
What is the Stewardship Network?
Yeah, so let me tell you a little bit about it. So we're an environmental nonprofit, and we work to connect, equip, and mobilize people and organizations to care for land and water in their community. Because we know that the people best suited to take care of the places are the people who live there, right? So that you're talking to people and about places that you know and love, the Great River, the Raisin River. And then we provide all kinds of backbone tools to them. So we keep them out on the land and doing the work that they love to do, whether that's prescribed fire or planting prairies or river cleanups. And we have our locally, geographically place-based member communities. And so that's where Bob was from, the Grand Raisin Conservation Community. And we then link those locally based member communities, as we call them, so that they can learn from each other. And so it's a really neat opportunity for people here in Jackson County to learn from people in California or in Duluth, Minnesota, or on the west side of the state.
What do grassroots organizations do in terms of, say, a river? Is it just like cleanups and stuff like that?
Well, it's all kinds of different things, right? So it's the whole idea that the people who live here know what needs to be done. So we help them tap into other resources, whether that's best practice knowledge or tools or funding and that kind of thing. So with the River Raisin, maybe it would be a riparian corridor restoration. So restoring the banks of the river to keep the river running clean and clear, or maybe it's doing a forest invasive species control to keep the spring wildflowers that we love to see, the trilliums and the trout lilies and the hepatica and everything that's coming up right now that are just the spring beauties that are so beautiful.
And you're the founder.
I am.
How long ago did you start this?
So I started this work 20 some years ago, and the thing that is just amazing to me is the work is so inspirational that I've continued to love doing it.
It's your life now?
I'm inspired every day to work with the amazing people who are caring for land and water in their communities, right? I mean, it's just such a privilege.
And Bob, how long have you been with the...
So since 2017, and so what, almost 5 years now?
Yeah.
Right after college. So.
And that was your degree program?
Yeah, so I studied environmental science at the University of Michigan. And actually Lisa was a mentor of mine when I was a student. She spoke at one of the classes that I was in. And then some years later I said, hey Lisa, would you like to keep talking about this stuff? Because I really respect what you do. And thankfully now I'm working for the Stewardship Network.
So all the ramifications of global warming that are now being widely reported in mainstream media, 10 years ago, that really wasn't a topic. Does that help the cause, the people becoming more aware?
It does really help the cause, right? Yeah, it's the thing. And then the other thing that's just so amazing about the network is while you hear all that news, we provide the way that you can get out and really make a difference in the face of all of that news.
And we mentioned we have one of the groups right here in our area, the Grand River Conservation Community. And I think a lot of our viewers are familiar with Grand River Environmental Action Team.
Mm-hmm.
That's a different
Right, that's a different organization.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, exactly, focusing
Right.
on the Grand. And then the Grand River, the Grand Raisin Conservation Community was actually one of our first conservation communities. So they've also been around for a long, long time. And one of the neat things about that is as you begin to develop the relationships over time, you develop greater and greater and greater trust. And so that you can start to do partnerships with YMCA store camps and private property owners that just wouldn't have happened without that kind of network organization that we are.
The left hand didn't know what the right hand was.
That's exactly right. You've got it exactly right. And then once you start to understand that, you start to understand both what you may need as well as what you may have to offer and what I can offer you. So it's a very reciprocal.
Right.
We talk about generous collaboration.
So since we have the headwaters of the Grand River and then the Raisin River right, and the Kalamazoo River, all right here or close by, is the focus different since this is where these rivers start? Do we have like better ownership?
Yes, well it is, right? I mean, that's one of the things is to work in the headwaters of these rivers is so important. And you know, Bob, where you were working, is in a really high quality headwater creek shed of the River Raisin. And so that is really important work to be doing in those headwaters.
Spring, so the rivers are flowing, flooding in some cases, but spring, that's a big part of your schedule. You've got spring challenge, it's
Right,
called?
yeah. So the Spring Challenge started 15 years ago, and it was really meant to celebrate and elevate all of the work that people are doing to care for land and water, right? So everybody's out there. Started out as the Garlic Mustard Challenge, a spring invasive species, and an opportunity. Everybody's doing this work. Not everybody, a lot of people are doing this work. And sometimes it can feel really overwhelming. Again, as you said, when you don't know what the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And then also to understand that you're part of something much, much bigger. So even though you may feel alone in the work on your property or in your organization, to know that there are so many other people out there doing this work. And it's evolved into a really wonderful opportunity to just celebrate that work and for people to again connect with each other and know that they're part of something much, much bigger.
So are you in charge as community coordinator getting these various organizations into a specific spring challenge, or do they all have the same?
Right, so the Spring Challenge in general is open to the general public, but also our member communities. And so there are 3 major initiatives as a part of the Spring Challenge. The first is called Compete. And so what we're asking people to do is to report the hours that they do doing environmental restoration in their communities. So that could be pulling plants, it could be planting plants, spraying plants, prescribed burns, cleanups, monitoring, or other. Because really this year, the most exciting thing about the Spring Challenge is that it's the most inclusive that it's ever been. We have everybody has a way to get involved, whether you're a part of a member community, part of the Grand Raisin Conservation Community, or if you're just a single individual in your community in northern Michigan and nobody else around you is doing that work, you report that single hour of planting in your garden or of pulling invasive species, you are a part of the Spring Challenge. And we're really trying to elevate the work that we all do together as a part of that. So that's the Compete pillar. And then the Celebrate pillar is another really inclusive initiative where we encourage people to share art that they've created. It could be a song, it could be a poem, it could be a picture that expresses their connection to the natural world. And so the way that you feel, like the way that nature makes you feel, we want you to express that through different mediums. And then we can share that on our social media as well. We have a hashtag TSN Spring that we're using across all social media for the Celebrate pillar and the Compete pillar. And then lastly, we have the Support pillar. And so that's, of course, fundraising is a part of what we do as a nonprofit, and we're really grateful for all the financial contributions that we get. So if you'd like to support us through that, that's great. Or you could visit our event calendar, stewardshipnetwork.org, and find an event in your community to participate in. So
It's fun. The folks here in Jackson County were first on the board in the Spring Challenge this year. So they were doing prescribed fire and the first to report. So.
Well, I think a lot of people, one of the invasive species we have is the garlic mustard.
Yep.
That's, so what do people do? Just pull it and?
Yeah, so it's a biennial, and so what you want to do is so that means it lives for 2 years, and then it goes to seed, and it's such a prolific seed producer, and that's why you want to get it before it goes to seed.
Yeah.
So as you see, it bolts is what it's called when it will go from its rosette up into the flower. And then at that point, once it's flowering and it's bolted, it's easy to pull out.
Well, it's too bad. It sounds delicious.
And it is.
Is it?
And you can take advantage, yeah.
Oh, really?
That's actually, so a part of the Garlic Mustard Challenge used to be that people would pull it, and they're like, what are we going to do with all of these? And they're looking at, different recipes that you can use it for. So,
right. So it was brought over by Europeans to,
No kidding.
yeah, as a food source.
So this week, river otter was first spotted in the Detroit River, first time in 100 years.
Right.
Is that a good sign that we're maybe doing a better job of keeping our rivers clean?
It is. And so one of the things that's really worth sharing is that this kind of stewardship work, this ongoing care of our land and water, really can result in really positive changes. And so while you may feel overwhelmed by the sheer negative news about the environment, know that there are so many people out there doing amazing work that result in exactly that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we can restore these systems. And that's in this, we're right now in the UN Decade of Ecological Restoration. And because we know that we can do this.
And if someone wants to be involved, either as just an individual that cares about the environment of the Grand River or the Raisin River, do they need to join the challenge or join one of the groups that are part of the network?
Well, so there are a couple of different things. My guess is that their involvement may evolve over time. So they can go to our website, get to know us, get to know the programs. They don't need to be a member of anything. As Rob said, go report your tomato plant that you planted in your garden and be part of the challenge in that way. You can also know that locally here there's the Grand Raisin Conservation Community, and go ahead and look on our website, stewardshipnetwork.org, and under member communities you'll find them. As Rob said, you'll find us on social media, #TSN Spring, and then find our phone number and email. Our doors are always open. We'd love to talk to anybody about it.
Awesome. And you have a physical location, offices?
We have an office. It's funny, right? In these days, having an office. We do have an office in Ann Arbor that we have really not been in very much over the last 2 years, but we do have a main office there. And then, as you mentioned, we are working all across the country as well.
And we have, a few conservancies in the area. You're not landowners as an organization.
We're not. No, but you have amazing land conservancies around here. Yes. So.
Right. And the partners of individual member communities could be landowners, it could be organizations, it could be municipalities. We just try to bring all the stakeholders together in a community that want to care for the land and water and just get them to work together.
Right,
So.
it could be a camp. We work with YMCA Store Camps, 1,200 really awesome acres of environment. They know how to run amazing camps, and we can help them manage their natural areas for
Awesome.
world-class ecosystems.
Well, it's great to find out more about the Stewardship Network today.
Yeah, Bart,
Thank you
thanks
so
so much for
much.
having us.
Yeah,
Great to
thank
be
you.
here. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in.
Absolutely.
And be sure and check out the website for a lot more info and ways you can get involved. The founder and CEO of the Stewardship Network, Lisa Brush, and the communications coordinator and community coordinator, Rob Lazinski.